very large percentage of sellers are afraid of reviews. And I understand why, but there's no reason to do so. Just do it. Just use the button. You are missing out on sales for no reason.
Hello, I'm your host, Ben, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of the Amazon Strategist Show, the show that's all strategy with no hacks, no silver bullets, and no magic pills, just real practical strategy for serious Amazon sellers. All right, I just finished an awesome episode with Tom of Lonesome Labs, and today we talked a ton about getting reviews on Amazon, doing it the right way. This has changed obviously over the years, but Tom's got a lot of great insight into kind of what actually works today and how you can actually automate that process and make it more streamlined for your business, which nowadays, every single Amazon seller, doesn't matter who you are, you've got to focus on getting good reviews and consistently getting them. That's what Amazon's going to favor these days and how you're going to convert more shoppers into buyers. So make sure you listen to this one all the way through. Without further ado, let's hop into this episode with Tom. Today, we've got the pleasure of being joined by the incredible, amazing, awesome Tom. If you don't know Tom, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's well-versed in marketing, growth, and client development, and harnessing these abilities to advance the business, generally speaking, but also specifically within marketplace and app stores. So Tom actually turned WiseStamp, which I have previously used, profitable in a couple of years and grew it to be the leader in the respective field. And after that acquisition, he consulted a few companies with growth hacking until discovering the opportunity in the Amazon sphere, which we're going to get into today, and founding Lonesome Labs. So Tom, without further ado, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
We were just joking right before we hit the record button about all the different things that you guys do at Lonesome Labs, right? The backstory, and I know you've come kind of from the WiseStamp world and some of the other stuff, but now you've got so many really cool projects, and we're going to dig into some of those today. So can you kind of take us back and I guess just maybe explain like how you got into the Amazon space, how you made that transition over from what you were doing previously?
Great question. So as you said, I was a founder of a company called WiseStamp. After it was acquired, I grew a larger and larger interest in the e-commerce world, and I consulted an app for Amazon sellers, and it hit me like there is so much to do. I mean, being a seller is so complicated. You can win big, but it's a very, very long way and it's very hard. And as a seller, you need all the help you can get. And we wanted to make a dent, to make life easier for sellers. I teamed up with a friend of mine and we just started doing it. And we launched our first app called High Five, and it really hit big, and been going at it since.
That's awesome. How long ago did you start High Five? Was that, I know we talked previously, has it just been a year and a half or so? I can't remember when you started it.
Yeah, 2 years ago we started. We started very slowly, but it caught up really quickly. So then we raised some money and we bought extra developers, and we're going at it full speed now.
That's awesome. I love that. So is your background in actually, and then we're going to get into High Five and some of this stuff a little bit more in depth, but is your background actually in, web development and building apps and programs? Like what was kind of your background prior to that with WiseStamp and some of the other consulting you did? I know there's probably a lot of pieces.
I never wrote a line of code. I do all the rest in a sense, like marketing and growth hacking and business. So this is what I did in WiseStamp. I was one of the founders. So you do whatever you can do other than write code. And over here, I'm again a founder of at High Five. So I do what's needed, basically.
Nice. Love that. Cool. So let's get into it. And we're going to talk about High Five, which is kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, really it's a service that's going to help sellers with the review portion of kind of the Amazon battle, I'm going to say, which we know has become like a very tricky review feedback kind of world. I know I get a lot of questions from sellers about, first, if they're kind of newer to the Amazon space, like what's compliant and what's not, but also just like, how do I get more reviews of my products? How do I get rid of bad reviews? All those kind of things. So can you give us kind of just an overview first off of what High Five actually does and how it's, beneficial to Amazon sellers, I suppose?
I would be happy to. So the way I like to think about it is, I'll start with Amazon. Amazon is customer obsessed. They want the buyer to have like the most supreme experience they can. The way it reflects on reviews, all reviews must be neutral. You can't really ask for good reviews. You can't do anything to get good reviews, because if you do, Amazon will kick you out. We are seller obsessed, so we are trying to make it easier for you to comply with Amazon without wasting the time and the effort. What i5 does is pretty simple to explain. If it's okay, I will share my screen.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Please let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, there it is. It's loading up here.
Perfect. So Amazon has a very nice feature. Every order made between 5 to 30 days after it was delivered has a nice button. It's called the request a review button. If you click it, Amazon will send an email similar to this to the customer, to your buyer. It says your opinion matters, rate the item, an image of the item, and rate the seller, the feedback for the seller. What we do, we click the button for you in a very smart way. It's very, very complicated. Working with Amazon API is not an easy task, but simply put, this is what we do. We will press it for you. You can do it yourself manually, by the way. You can open each order page, again, 5 to 30 days after the delivery. You will see the button and you can click it. What i5 lets you do is, first of all, it's fully automated. Second of all, there are a few other unique features that make it even more optimized and efficient. I will share my screen again if it's okay, and I will show you maybe i5.
Yeah, just real quick, I was just going to summarize too. So for anyone who's not watching the video version, but audio is, the emails that you're receiving, if you've ever shopped on Amazon that are saying, hey, leave a review for your most recent order or this product, that you got. Those reviews are getting sent, and they're sending when you click the request review button, which is something that Amazon allows you to do on each individual order, right? However, it's a very tedious process if you go through one by one and have to go through and click that and, do it every week or what have you, especially if you're really high volume.
Exactly right. First of all, it's a problem if you're high volume, but you also run the risk of forgetting, and you don't want to forget. We'll discuss it in a second, but reviews are super important to your success. They are critical. So this is i5. I will describe it as I show it because, as you said, some people might be listening rather than watching. So we bring you, as soon as you plug i5 in, we bring a list of your ASINs. In this example, it's 1,120 ASINs. You can activate them one by one, saying, I want to request a review after 5 days. For this one, I want after 21 days. We let you choose per ASIN, because some ASINs you might want to ask right away because it's something with instant gratification. But if the other product is more complex, maybe wait 3 weeks before you ask for the review. As you can see, it's super simple. We have a group update button. If you click it, you can activate everything with a click. So
that's a really good point, Tom. Actually, I was going to say that's a really good point too, and not something that I don't think a lot of sellers that I've personally worked with have, a strategy there in terms of like, hey, I've got this one product that's a impulse buy, under $20, really like simple, straightforward. We can use the garlic press example, but that's a product where you might want to ask for that review instantly versus you maybe should consider having a different strategy for those products that someone's going to have to maybe unpack and set the thing up or read through like a manual. Maybe that's where you time it so that it's 2 or 3 weeks after the fact, because then you're hopefully by that point they've gone through and done the setup, right? I guess in theory, they could also message you if you reach out and say like, hey, I'm having issues actually, rather than leaving a negative review. But yeah, do you have any kind of like other strategies like that? I've never really thought about that, which might be a sad thing to say after all my years working in the Amazon space.
You got it 100% right. Many sellers miss that, and timing it allows you to optimize. We see 3 to 5% review conversion rate. So out of every 100 sales you made, you can expect 3 to 5 new reviews, which is a lot. This is another thing that relates to strategy, but it's automatic, so you don't really need to think about it. But we keep asking. Always be asking, because Amazon algorithm favors recent reviews compared to all the reviews. So even if we sell the same product with the same number of reviews and your reviews are more recent, you'll be higher up. And when you use a tool like
Right.
High Five, you always have fresh reviews, and Amazon loves it. And you will love it because you will sell so much more. Jump for a second to the statistics tab. As I said, it's completely automatic. So once you set it up, you don't need to go in, check anything. You don't need to do anything. You can go to the statistics to see how many sales you made per day, how are the different items being sent. Like you can see for example, this item was sent 71 requests, 67. You can see the top 20, etc., etc. But you don't need to. It's completely automatic, and more than that, we actually we send you a daily digest. These are the orders that were requested today. You can have it weekly, monthly, but we theoretically send it daily. So really, you set it up once, like for 2 minutes. I mean, if you have 100,000 ASINs, some of our, I don't know how they handle it, but some of our sellers do. If you have 100,000 ASINs, it might take it a while to load. But after it's loading, with a single click, you are set to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that just setting, there's a few tools in the Amazon space, I feel like, that are kind of set it up once and then pretty much it's going to do all the heavy lifting more or less without your input anymore. There's other tools, like I've used different alert softwares and things like that, right? And this is one of them. It's so easy to set something up where it's going to automate that request process for you. And it just runs on autopilot, it sounds like. What are kind of the risks associated these days with requesting reviews? I've been in the Amazon world about 6-ish years now, so I've seen kind of some of the changes over the course of that time, right? Before they had the request a review button, right? You had to have like a piece of software that was sending messages out and you'd write the messages. You have to be careful there. And then I know they made the big change, which was, and I don't know if this is still how it is actually, but you cannot request a review more than one time on a single order. And that was a big update. And I think right after that was when maybe they added the request review button. I'm not sure that timeline is 100%, but so those are just a couple of the changes, right? And I know there's been a ton of other stuff. Now they have the critical review page where you as a brand owner can reach out to people that have left you a 3, I believe is 3, 2, or 1-star review and try to rectify the problem. So Amazon's given sellers, I think, some more features there. But I guess that was my long-winded way of asking you, like, what are the risks or dangers here that sellers nowadays going into 2024 should kind of be aware of?
It's a great question because requesting review is so simple yet so frightening because of the things you said. Like Amazon can block your account like that. If you get reviews in a non-compliant way, if you get fake reviews, Amazon can simply shut you down, which is a huge risk. But the one thing they did that is serving sellers is allowing you to click the request a review button, which is 100% safe. We are actually being recommended by Amazon. We have an Amazon representative recommending High Five, and Amazon actually sent an email recommending High Five to a few sellers. We know it's safe. It's as safe as can be. And then something that might worry some sellers is a no-brainer. Just activate it and go grow your business. I mean, we'll take care of reviews for you. You will see yourself rising up in the search, in Amazon search, and you don't need to think about it anymore. We do not at all deal with buyer-seller messaging. As you said, it's another possibility. It's risky. I'm sure if you know how to do it right, maybe you can get an even higher conversion rate. Although I doubt it if you can get more than 5%, which is very, very large. But maybe you can. But you should be very, very careful not to aggravate Amazon because Amazon will win.
Yeah, they're very sensitive around this topic too. But yeah, I mean, I know there were a ton of tools just serving that one, kind of purpose for years. I don't know what's become of a lot of them. I'm sure they've pivoted or added other features, but where that was what you did. You set up your messaging sequence, and you still had to play by the rules. You can't say, leave me a 5-star review, and I'll give you something, or you can't tell them what to leave in terms of the star rating. But if you're going to do the review thing, like this is the easiest way to stay compliant, to do it by the books, and Amazon's going to be 100% behind this, right? There's no way that you can do something wrong in this if you're just clicking the button that they've given you as a seller, right? So it makes sense. I don't really know many sellers that are still doing messaging sequences anymore, but I'm sure there's some out there still.
Exactly. And actually, as you said before, you can't, for example, you can't even technically request more than once. Like if you try to press the button and you're using i5, you'll see a message from Amazon saying it was already requested. You can't technically do it. So you are in the safe zone by definition. Nothing can really go wrong.
Do you also help with seller feedback? Because so we have the distinction between, obviously there's product reviews, which is really what we're talking about now. And that's probably the more critical piece here, right? That's what's going to show on the actual product, the listing, and have an impact on all your metrics. But there is that side of the equation that is the seller feedback, which is a totally different process. Do you guys also automate that in any way, or is High Five a solution focused 100% on requesting the reviews on the order level for the product detail page?
So once you click the button, or we click it for you, so the email has two components to it. The topmost is asking you to leave the product review 5 stars, and the bottom part is asking for seller feedback 5 stars. So a smaller percentage of the buyers will press the feedback part, but some of them will. So again, this is informal, but our internal testing show that 3 to 5% will leave you a review, and about 0.5% will leave you a feedback. So for let's say for every 200 sales you made, you'll get 1 feedback, but you'll get 6 to 10 reviews.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting piece of info. I'm just curious now, how many review requests do you think have been processed through High Five? Like, I'm curious, like how much data you guys have seen, kind of that's given you those kind of metrics.
So what we know, I have to brag a bit. About a year ago, we celebrated sending the 1 million review request. Nowadays, we are sending close to 2 million every month. So I said we grow a lot. What we don't know is how many of them transformed the exact number of how many of them turned into actual reviews, because Amazon doesn't disclose this information in the API. But we did some internal testing that showed the 3 to 5% figure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So one other question too, Tom, is I'm just curious, like, do you have any input on the non request review, like what the other options that now I would say there's almost every other option for getting reviews is kind of gray / black hat, which generally is not something you want to look at doing if you're building your brand on Amazon. But the one area that always comes up is putting inserts in your product packaging. Do you have any experience or have any kind of client stories there? Or is that still something that you guys see as a successful strategy? Any kind of considerations around that?
So I'll start with a disclaimer. I'm not a seller myself. I never sold anything online, but the software of Wistem, but never a physical product. If I were a seller, I would be very cautious with asking in any other way other than the request a review button. Product inserts seems to be very effective, but they carry a risk. Like I don't. It depends, I think, on how much you like risks. If you are not like a risk taker, I would skip it, because you are getting a high enough percentage as it is. Like if you raise it from 3% to 4%, it's not such a big change, but it's a huge risk. But again, this is my personal view.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I believe you've got to be very, very cautious with it. I've heard, again, if you're very direct and say, like, give me a 5-star review or add an insert that's doing that, which I still get products to this day that are like definitely sketchy. You got an insert in there. It's leave us a 5-star review and then message us on WhatsApp, we'll send you another one of these products free. Don't do that, right? The things that I've seen are, if you've got an insert that's already in your packaging, whether you're selling that unit on Amazon or elsewhere, like I've seen, and it's not saying give us a 5-star review. It's like, we love your feedback. Your feedback makes a difference to us as a small business. And that's maybe it, or something very carefully worded. I can see those that kind of work. But yeah, definitely got to be careful there. Which on Amazon, I don't think anyone should be taking risks these days. It's too easy for them just to shut down your account or do something. You got to play by their rules.
Exactly, especially if it's your livelihood. I mean, if it's a side hustle and worst case scenario, Amazon will shut me down, you can take a risk. But if you are dependent on your Amazon business, I wouldn't take a risk with them. By the way, one thing I remember that refers to something you said. Part of our vision we didn't mention something that is a favorite of our users. High Five is completely free. This is the question I get asked the most. Why are you free? We're free because it's our first product. We are building our brand. We want you to know Lonesome Labs, to see that our products are superior, and then you will give a chance to our other products. That some of them might be free, some of them might be paid. So we are building our brand. So Hi-Fi will be free forever, free for life, so no worries here. And another thing that is important to us is that thank you. Our apps are simple, like super simple. Like it's one app for one objective. High Five asks for reviews. That's it. Our other, for example, we have an app called Pulse. We will not talk about it now, but Pulse is a real-time sales dashboard. That's it. I mean, every app does one thing compared to other apps that does 507 things, and you need to understand and install it, and it's cluttered and cumbersome. No. With our product, what you see is what you get. It's simple, it's affordable, or even free. It's very easy to manage.
Yeah, simple. I feel like specialization in apps is going to become a bigger and bigger thing in coming years, because it's like every software I pay for these days, it's just it's nice that they're trying to like serve their customers and take requests, but there's overwhelming, like some of them, it's like, not, I love Helium 10, but and I use it quite a bit, but like Helium 10, it's like I open the tools like category nowadays, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't even find the tools that I use, because there's so many, like, and they're good tools, right? Don't get me wrong, but it's like, that's just common. Like there's so many tools within the tool that you're paying for, which I get it. Yeah, they're trying to serve their customers, but there is something to be said about what you guys do, specializing. You know exactly what you're getting.
For sure. I mean, ideally, like let's say when we speak in 3 years from now, I will give you all the tools you get from Helium 10 or Jungle Scout or wherever, but you'll only pay for the ones you use, and they'll do only what they are used to do. You don't need to think of how do I set this up? How do I set this up? Are these two colliding? No, it's a simple one-to-one tools.
Oh, that's cool. So tell us real quick, what else are you kind of working on right now with Lonesome Labs, and what's the next product that you guys are building out, or if you can tell us?
So actually our biggest thing is about to launch hopefully within a couple of months. I would prefer not to mention it now. I'd love to talk to you about it later because it's still undercover.
That's
but
fine.
After that, we plan on releasing a new app that will bring a whole new perspective to keyword tracking, a completely new way, and very laser focused.
All right, there we go. We can say, for anyone who's listening or watching now, you have a reason to come back and subscribe and all that stuff, because we'll have Tom back on to announce the thing he's now hyped up, but not told us what it is. So we'll definitely have to have you come back. Tom, I want to turn the conversation a little bit and ask you the question I ask every guest, which will lead us into the next section here. But does pineapple belong on pizza?
Anything belongs on anything. Like everything belongs on everything. Like I would eat pizza with much worse things than a pineapple if it was up to me.
All right, fair enough. So the reason I ask is that's our controversial take kind of starter question. I just like to ask again every guest something controversial that maybe they believe that maybe the rest of the industry does not believe, or might not have the same thoughts about, I guess. So do you have something debatable, controversial, or just an opinion that you kind of, stand on that might be a little bit different from other people in the space?
I'll stick to the subject of reviews. I think many sellers, like surprisingly, a very large percentage of sellers are afraid of reviews. And I understand why, but there's no reason to do so. Just do it. I hope Nike will not sue me, but just do it. Like just plug high five or do it manually if you want, but just use the button. You are missing out on sales for no reason whatsoever.
Just piggybacking off that, I feel like and I'm saying this because I've been in there before, but the only time you should be as a seller afraid of reviews, of asking for reviews, is when you're maybe worried your product's not good enough, which might be really hard. Like, I don't even like saying that because I know that might be hard to hear if you've just come out with a product, right? And it's like, it's pretty good. Maybe it's your first launch, but you're really worried that it's just not good enough, right? And I feel like the only time, like, and I'm saying that from personal experience because I've gone through that where I've launched, like, my first private label product I ever launched, which I've mentioned a couple times on the show, is a little webcam cover. And to be honest, it was a very cheap, like, this is back in the day. So I got my Alibaba like sample and then ordered like my first 500 units. Product was not that great. And I was worried about asking for reviews. And that's why, because as soon as I got the first couple of reviews, it was like, I got a couple that were like 3-star ones in there. And that made me feel like, oh my gosh, like, and so I feel like when your product is really, really good, then you're not going to even have that same kind of friction point or fear. And some of it's also the experience, right? Maybe if it's your first launch, you're probably always worried about certain components of that. But yeah, just my kind of 2 cents on it as well. But you should ask for reviews. I echo that. Like, you need to ask for reviews.
Makes a lot of sense what you say, but arguably, if you don't get bad reviews, but you don't get reviews at all, no one will discover you anyway. You'll be buried down Amazon search. It doesn't really matter if it's bad reviews or none. No one will see you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to get your first reviews.
Yeah, the one thing we don't do is we do not send a request a review for refunded orders. It's important to note. We do not, so no worries here.
Got it. And when you say that, do you mean that the order's shipped and then the customers returned it? So are we talking about returns, or they canceled it before, like right after ordering it, for example?
Yes. So if it was refunded for whatever reason, Hi-Fi will not request a review to make sure your reviews stay high.
Yeah, that's important. Cool.
It's just like something I get asked a lot, and you reminded me with a lower rating review. So we do not do it. We just don't send to refunded orders.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do as a seller is request a review when someone's just returned your item because it was broken or they didn't want it or it was a bad product or something. Then you're definitely asking, hey, can you please leave me a 1-star review? You more or less said that, right? So yeah, that is an important note.
Don't forget the 1-star feedback.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Tom, I want to kind of turn it around to you for a second. And, this is kind of going to bring us a little bit to the end of our show here. And I know we're going to have you come back on as you get closer to the secret project that you're working on. But before we kind of turn it to the end of the show, I just wanted to give you some space and some time to just share with the audience where they can learn more about you or connect with you or get started with Hi-Fi if they're looking for a tool to kind of help automate this review request process.
Awesome. So I will start with the install link for Hi-Fi. So it's bit.ly, bit.ly, bit.ly/Candy Reviews. We did a bit.ly link to direct install Hi-Fi. As I said before, it's free for life. No worries here. Try it. If you don't like it, you can always disable it. So bit.ly/Candy Reviews. You can email me directly. I'm super fast in answering and replying, so feel free. My direct email is Tom, Tom, @lonesomelabs.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And we'll put, for anyone listening or watching, we'll put the notes down in the show notes or in the description as well. But both the link you mentioned and your email as well, so people can get in touch. That's awesome. Tom, I just wanted to ask, is there anything else I should be asking you about Hi-Fi or this review process or anything else? Are there any questions I missed that you think the audience needs to know, or did we get everything covered today?
I think we covered everything. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. And I really appreciate, again, the opportunity. And I hope many sellers will join us. I mean, as I said, we are growing very, very fast. We are developing more interesting tools and products. Be a part of it. We are obsessed with you, the seller. Enjoy it. Why not benefit from it?
Love it. That's awesome. Well, Tom, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. And Yeah, we'll set something up to have you back to hear what you guys are working on next. But that's going to bring us to the end of the show. So for everyone who's watching, thank you so much for being here. Remember, everything, links, anything, emails, getting in touch with Tom, all that stuff's going to be in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks again to Tom of Lonesome Labs for joining us today. We hope that this episode pulled some kind of insight or strategy out for you that you can turn into valuable, actionable information to implement with your Amazon business. As always, we thank you for tuning into the Amazon Strategist Show. If you did find some kind of value in today's discussion, we kindly request leave us a rating, a review, leave us a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or if you have any questions. That stuff does help us reach more and more e-commerce enthusiasts just like yourself. And don't forget to follow us on our social media channels. We post updates there, behind the scenes stuff, content, and a lot more. So check us out. All the links to everything mentioned from today's episode will be found in either the show notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube. That's it for today's episode. Be sure to mark your calendars and join us again next week for another captivating discussion where we're going to bring you some more expert insights and game-changing tips for your Amazon business. So again, I'm your host, Ben Smith, signing off. Happy selling.